During the Clone Wars, the official rulership of Mandalore changed hands from Pre Vizsla to Lord Maul. Maul defeated Pre Vizsla in single combat and rightfully claimed the Darksaber as well as his throne as the leader and ruler of Mandalore. A large portion of the Mandalorians followed this brand new leadership and creed, honoring the old ways and the tradition of the Darksaber and the fact that the strongest shall rule Mandalore. However, some did not. Individuals such as Bo-Katan Kryze, who led a subsect of Death Watch away from the Mandalorians and away from the rightful culture of Mandalore. But now, thanks to Chapter 23 of The Mandalorian, the significance of Maul and his rulership has been brought up yet again. Many have speculated that the Armorer herself is a former member of Death Watch and only embraced the way once Death Watch disassembled and slowly died out, signifying the horns on her helmet and signifying the true ruler of Mandalore in her eyes. However, there is now a new Mandalorian helmet that features horns quite prominently, one that represents a new era of Mandalore and perhaps harkens back to the old rulership of Maul, the ideologies of an outsider coming in and taking over Mandalore. The one that we're talking about is the helm of Moff Gideon. At the end of Chapter 23, Moff Gideon revealed his plan to create an army of Force sensitives using cloning technology and using DNA stolen from Grogu in the previous season. However, it does not end there, as Moff Gideon has a fascination with Mandalorian culture, so much so that he believes that this new army must be modeled after the very culture of Mandalore, taking from them the ideals of this warrior culture in order to lead an army of Force sensitives clad in Beskar that would rightfully give him his place as potentially a brand new emperor. Thanks to the beginnings of the episode, we learn that Moff Gideon holds no true allegiance to Hux, who is currently working on the cloning program and Project Necromancer, a project that we'll be covering in depth later. We also know that he holds no greater allegiance to Grand Admiral Thrawn, but rather appears to hold some allegiance to the tradition of Maul, and we believe that Gideon still holds true in his heart that Maul is the true leader of Mandalore, and the last rightful ruler of the Darksaber. Let us explain. But first, welcome back to our archives, Acolytes of the Force. There has been a great disturbance rippling through our order. Many who have visited our archives have not yet reached out and subscribed. So, if you want to be updated with daily holocron openings, reach out with the Force and crush that subscribe button. Now, let us begin. The horns on the Armorer's helmet, as well as Moff Gideon's new Mandalorian armor, are no mistake and are no coincidence, drawing an important callback to the Mandalorians and who we believe Gideon believes is the rightful ruler of Mandalore. Let us explain. Following the events of the Clone Wars, the Darksaber still very much belonged to Maul. However, he decided not to wield it any longer. Maul just keeps it as a trinket within his home on Dathomir, and even discards its importance when Ezra Bridger inquires about the blade. With that said though, as far as the Mandalorians and the wider galaxy is concerned, Maul is still the rightful ruler of the Darksaber, even though he was disarmed previously by Sidious, something that the galaxy is of course unaware of. Because of this, and because of Maul turning his back on the Mandalorians, we believe that the Darksaber rejected him and deemed him unworthy. And similarly to how it performed with Din Djarin, we believe in the hands of Maul, the blade grew extremely heavy, due to the simple fact that Maul disgraced what it truly meant. Again though, as far as Gideon and many others are concerned, Maul was the last rightful ruler of Mandalore, and Bo-Katan did not defeat Maul in single combat, nor did Sabine Wren, who claimed the Darksaber following it being taken. In the eyes of Moff Gideon, the last legitimate ruler of Mandalore would have been Maul. But we also believe that there is a deeper significance going on here to the horns on his helmet. Moff Gideon, as far as we know, is an outsider to the Mandalorian culture, and he claimed the Darksaber initially from Bo-Katan as an outsider. He was not born a Mandalorian, nor does he strictly follow the beliefs and codes of the Mandalorians. He simply picks and chooses what he believes is advantageous for his army and his own grand plan. Moff Gideon himself is not a Mandalorian, even though now he represents a new age in Mandalorian culture. And if you ask Gideon, he likely considers himself to be a Mandalorian now that he has adopted the armor. All he needs to solidify this is the Darksaber. But how exactly does this relate back to Maul? Maul himself was also an outsider and did not strictly follow Mandalorian doctrine and teachings. Maul very much did not follow the way, even turning his back on his followers once Mandalore was conquered by the Republic. Yet still, the Mandalorians honored his rulership as he was the wielder of the Darksaber. Maul represents everything that Moff Gideon is fascinated by. He is fascinated by Force sensitives. He's fascinated by the Mandalorians. So much so that he wants to create an army of the two of them melded together. A Force-sensitive clone army, loyal to him and loyal to the ideal that only the strongest shall rule. Who better to embody this ideology than that of Maul? We also know that Moff Gideon is a man of secrets. In this very episode, he states that in the known galaxy, he knows all of the various secrets hidden in the shadows, although he cannot find Thrawn. What's interesting about this is we believe that of all of the people in the Shadow Council, that Moff Gideon would be among the most likely to know of the true origins of Sidious, the true origins of their Emperor as a Sith. And he may even hold knowledge that Maul himself was a previous Dark Lord. To put things plainly, Moff Gideon is fascinated with the Force and the various powers that it can grant. He knows the Force has granted people great power in the Star Wars galaxy, from Maul all the way to the Emperor himself. He respects the immense power that it grants those that wield it correctly. And yet, this fascination with the Mandalorian culture, this fascination with being the greatest warrior possible, also fascinates Gideon. And in order to pay homage to who he believes was the previous rightful ruler of Mandalore, who won the Darksaber in ritualistic combat, who did not have it gifted to him, or did not lose it in a simple surrender, Gideon wears the horns of Maul to spit in the very face of the false ruler Bo-Katan Kryze, and the very things that she stands for. And like Maul, Moff Gideon views himself as the new age of Mandalore, a new ruler, and potentially, if his ambitions are fulfilled, a new emperor. But anyway, my friends and acolytes, did you catch this extremely important detail about Moff Gideon's helm? Do you believe that we are correct in assuming that this is exactly what it symbolizes? And do you think that Moff Gideon will have attention drawn to this fact in his helmet? And could there be a deeper connection with the Armorer? Stay tuned later today as we'll be breaking down a theory that not all is as it seems with the Armorer, and Gideon and her may actually be working together. As always, my acolytes, thank you so much for visiting the archives. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.